What is religion? Part 1, Civil Religion and the State. The recent death of Robert Bellah made me reread his classic essay on American civil religion, which first appeared in 1967, and this, in turn, sparked a series worth of questions on what religion is. Bellah believed, as I have come to do, that a society without religion is impossible. This claim will strike quite a lot of readers as wholly absurd, as ridiculous as supposing that Earth goes round the sun when any fool can see the sun crossing the heavens several times at least in any English summer. So I think it's worth examining and defending at some length. The first requirement, if you are going to do this, is to break all notions of religion as being something essentially like Christianity or any of the other monotheisms of today. To talk about religion as if the perfect form was modern Christianity is like talking about biology as if the perfect mammal was Homo sapiens. Bellah was a sociologist and to some extent an anthropologist too. He knew very well that there have been innumerable different forms of religion, and that counterexamples can be found for everything that is supposed to be distinctively religious. You don't need priests, holy books, or doctrines. You don't even need myths. All these are things which, once established, are hard to be rid of, because they reflect and help to constitute increasingly complex models of social organization which will tend to replace more simple ones. But none of them are essential to a religion. At the same time, it's important not to go too far in the other direction, and to suppose that every social activity, and every movement of the inner life, can be described as in some sense religious. Bellah himself started off in the 70s with a long and complicated definition and ended up with a very simple and powerful one. This came in part from the early 20th century philosopher George Santayana, who wrote that having a religion meant having another world to live in, whether we expect ever to pass wholly over into it or no. What Bellah added to this was the point that the world of everyday, from which religion promises to deliver us, is not more real, or less constructed than the one we access through religious practices. Everyday life may involve different kinds of cognition, but the world we see through its mechanisms is just as much the product of wish fulfillment as heaven might be. Only the appetites being satisfied in there are different. And living entirely in the daily life world of those narrow appetites and immediate problems to solve is literally intolerable. No one can manage it all the time. He doesn't mean by this that religion speaks to our higher or more unselfish instincts. It needs to be taken for granted in these arguments that some forms of religion are almost entirely malign and lead to horror. But religion is also, importantly, selfless. Its atrocities derive from a higher cause. They offer the hope that things will be different. How does this map onto his idea of an American civic religion, distinct from Christianity? Perhaps the most important point of his essay, easily overlooked, is that there has been from the very beginning of the Republic, he says, an American civil irreligion competing with the civil religion as a narrative and a general theory of the state and its people. Again, it is a characteristic of this thought that there are struggles rather than simplicities. The struggle between civil religion and civil irreligion is also one between republicanism and liberalism as these were understood in the late 18th century. Republicanism, certainly as it was understood in the 18th century, depends utterly on religion, because a republic is built and maintained by its citizens in their interactions with each other. They have to subordinate themselves quite deliberately to a vision of a common good, and they must see this as fulfilling their own natures. That, very simply, is the task of religion. This is the spirit that he sees infuses the Declaration of Independence. Against this is the competing tradition of liberalism, more fully developed in the Constitution. Liberalism, in this sense, has no need of God because it trusts that the self-interest of the citizens will lead them to the best possible outcome. The state is a purely neutral legal mechanism without purposes or values. Its sole function is to protect the rights of individuals, that is, to protect freedom. Such a state is, he thinks, an absurd impossibility, which could never exist. Non-existence does not of course much diminish its power over our imaginations. States and societies must have a way to judge themselves from some standpoint exterior to power. It is not enough for religion to give us access to another world. We must be able to contemplate our everyday world and judge it by the standards of the one we reach. And this judgment is what the God of American civil religion supplies. This God is clearly distinct from the Christian one, and still more the Jewish one. Rather, he is the being who rescues, or who might sometimes rescue, America from the evil angels of its nature. Whatever else you think of his ideas, this task is pressing today.